this morning to review the papers are presenter and writer Matthew Stanlon and PR and branding expert Mark Bukowski. Mark, we're going to start with you this section. You've picked the Daily Express. A lot of the papers, of course, focusing on the events over the weekend and the coronation. The Express showing a picture of Prince William there saying, "We're also proud of you, Granny, too," and focusing on the relationship between Prince William and his dad.
Yeah, it's not just the Mirror, not just Express, but the Mirror as well. I've got Granny would be proud. In fact, on the Mirror, they reprint the entire speech of William. What I find interesting about this is that, you know, this is a well-choreographed event. They would have thought very carefully how they would message about the future. I know on this occasion, they've channeled the Queen back into it, saying how proud she would be of her son. William taking centre stage at that point to sort of give his view is very profound, because it channeled this new touchy-feely sensitivity. There was a sort of a shadow of his own mother through that, and interestingly, he didn't mention Queen Camilla in any of his speeches within that. And it really signifies that, in fact, that there is, in some views, that Charles is a caretaker king, and the real change or the real hope of the monarchy rests with William and his heirs. But it was a very emotional speech, and I thought the whole weekend was pretty emotional, because you can actually see Charles, you know, taking this very, very seriously. And although we had the pomp and the ceremony of the coronation concert culminating in the weekend before the events of today, it was a very important for the royal family spin machine and PR machine, you know, to really set a marker of what the future is. And quite interesting, through all the papers, there isn't very much mention of of Harry's sort of disappearance and you know, so soon after the coronation. And in fact, the warmth of his father missing his grandson, and everything about it just feels very, very different. And if they can ride that and you know, see a new future, it's good news for the royal family, particularly for a younger audience who are disconnecting. It would seem that even through this channeling of the messages that we see captured across all the front pages, you know, stands the institution in good stead, you know, for the future.
Interesting stuff. Matthew, let's just step away from the royals for a little while. The Guardian, you've picked the story inside. Now, we covered this on Sky a couple of weeks ago. This is a row that's brewing about end-to-end encryption and providers, including WhatsApp, saying that essentially they're going to pull out of the UK if the government doesn't amend the online safety bill.
Yeah, this is absolutely fascinating. It caught my eye looking through the papers this morning. That this is the online safety bill, as you say, and this has been rumbling on and on for years now. 4 or 5 Conservative prime ministers have been presiding over its slow progress towards becoming law. Many secretaries of state, possibly even as many as 8, such has been the turmoil in recent years. But the key thing here is, and this is what will worry, I think, a lot of viewers, that the future of WhatsApp in the United Kingdom is not guaranteed. And that's because, quite rightly, the government is trying to clamp down on child sexual abuse and terrorism. And that means that end-to-end encryption used by apps such as WhatsApp could come under some sort of threat. The government seems to be sending out mixed messages as to how this will affect WhatsApp, but it does seem as though WhatsApp would be prepared to pull out of the United Kingdom in order to protect its end-to-end encryption, because don't forget, the UK is a relatively minor part of its massive global market, and WhatsApp wants to protect the users abroad, internationally, over the interests of those in the UK who may fall foul of this attempt by the government to grip this sort of technology in order, as I say, to get a handle on terrorism and child sexual abuse that may use WhatsApp to further those nefarious ends.
And Mark, is this something that concerns you? Because, you know, when I spoke to some technology gurus about this a few weeks ago, they said that possibly a large part of the issue is that those making these decisions in government don't actually understand the tech that they're talking about, that they're trying to police here. Yes, everybody wants to stop people using this kind of technology for nefarious means, but without end-to-end encryption, WhatsApp can't exist.
Well, you know, the genie is at the bottle. I mean, you know, frankly, with tech and with the amount of billions of pounds being collected on our data at the moment, we willingly give ourselves up to all these free services, and many of us don't totally recognise how that data is being used. It's not just WhatsApp, but people using Signal and Telegram. There's always competitors standing in, and I think this is a PR move from WhatsApp in a sense, because they feel their breakfast, lunch and dinner being eaten by other messaging apps. It's an impossibility for any government coming through. And yes, there are absolutely legitimate calls on appalling sort of uses of people who want to abuse this system. But no matter one goes down, and of course we're reading across the papers today, as we have done for weeks now, the impact of AI and ChatGPT and generative processes, and that's going to be a complete game changer in terms of how the internet, becomes to dominate our lives. And here we are looking at some ways at legacy media and reviewing papers that actually a younger audience, pick up their news from people who are channeling those through WhatsApp groups, which are enormous now. Even the way that we've communicated this morning discussing the papers on WhatsApp groups. I mean, it's a huge part of our life. And on the good side of it, it does lots of things to allow us to sort of combine and get together. On the other side, we've got to look at the darker forces, and there's some really interesting stuff going out at the moment. But it's an impossible situation at the moment if we're going to not have extreme legislation, which again will allow people to sort of opt out of those and find other ways of communicating.
Matthew, story inside the Telegraph, of course, we've been covering it this morning. The big help out today. Up to 6 million people apparently going to get involved. It's hoped, the King hopes, and Rishi Sunak too, that this will be the legacy actually of this weekend, that more people will get involved. Do you think it will encourage more people to get involved?
I very much hope so. I mean, I hadn't heard of this big initiative, and I rather wish I had. I mean, I still might look up some local events, because there are over 50,000 of these events, and I think something like 33,000 registered charities are taking part in it. It's been set up partly by Buckingham Palace in order, as you say, to encourage a legacy of the coronation that involves all of us helping each other out. That's something that King Charles has done a huge amount. When he was Prince Charles, the Prince's Trust helped huge numbers of people who are underprivileged. Public service was at the heart of the message of this weekend's coronation, I think. And the hope, the aspiration is that filters down to the rest of us, and we all do our bit. Finally to you, Mark, you picked a story in the Financial Times, front page, Labour suggesting that they're going to try to limit foreign buyers of UK properties by increasing stamp duty for those who are buying from abroad. Good idea?
Well, I think it is a good idea. I think that the problem for the Labour Party has been the massive success, or some would argue a success in terms of local elections, and also the work that was done in tactical voting, has been slightly overshadowed by the noise around and the celebrations of the coronation. And George Parker's piece here is quite interesting, to suggest that in fact that it's a populist sort of thing. More homes, first-time buyers getting an opportunity to get in, slapping big tax on foreign buyers. It's all good sort of stuff. And I think that, part of what we've seen slipping into many of the papers this week was an attempt for Labour to sort of channel their policies, as opposed to getting away from some of the issues around whether or not they're going to have to make a pact.
Mark, Matthew, we're going to leave it there again. Thank you both so much. Cheers.